What's up guys, my name is Timbo and welcome to another episode of Destiny Database. Over the past month or so we've covered the Hive, Fallen, Vex, and Taken, and today we're going to be finishing up the enemy races with the Cabal. The ugly space turtles who specialize in smacking you thousands of feet across the room into a wall and killing you by the architects. The Cabal is the last stop on our journey learning of the various enemy races, but that doesn't necessarily mean the series has to end. I plan on continuing this series for as long as you guys want episodes, as there's plenty of other topics we can cover in this quicker, introductory level format that these videos attempt to achieve. So you guys know the drill by now. Shortly after this video goes live, I'll be posting a poll right here on YouTube allowing you guys to choose the topic for the next episode. To make this as easy as possible for you, if you go ahead and click subscribe to the channel, then the poll should just show up in your subscriptions feed. If you're having trouble finding it or aren't subscribed, then you can find it in the community tab on my channel. But if you like this series, you're probably going to want to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. With all the technicalities out of the way, we can start our dive into the origins and story of the Cabal Empire. Apologies in advance for anything I may potentially mispronounce. Space turtle language is hard. The Cabal are a warmongering race of giant humanoids with heavy-set rhinoceros-like appearances. Unless you're a Scion, then you're pretty slim. Their ever-expanding empire spreads through efficiency, organization, and corruption. To get a gauge of the Cabal's power, their occupation of Mars is considered only a fraction of their full might. Only few Guardians who have encountered the Cabal live to tell the tale, something I can personally attest to. On every front the Cabal has conquered, they have been found to dig in deep, fortifying their installations with razor wire. The Cabal is an extremely tough and tenacious species, evidenced through their militaristic design and intense soundtrack, willing to defend their territory until every last one of them is dead. If you are Cabal, it's either conquer or die. Literally. If you fail your mission, you're exiled from the Empire. There's no need to head home. While cruel, this creates the desperate aggressiveness expressed by Cabal combatants. The Cabal's architecture is very industrial, sometimes regal, with an emphasis on burrowing into mountains for defense. They are a very industrious, militaristic species whose social structure and way of life revolves largely around conquest and expansion. Their armor and technology can often be seen leaking a substance similar to oil, and even emit smoke when damaged or worn. For centuries, the Cabal has devoted their resources to occupying and mining Mars specifically, contesting with the native Vex as evidenced by the many Cabal ships seen bringing armies to and from the Red Planet, and recently having to deal with those pesky Guardians too, especially the Sunsingers as per usual. Suckers just never die. In my other videos, I've talked about the religion of these enemy races as all of them seem to worship some sort of god or power, but interestingly, the same cannot really be said for the Cabal, as they're the only hostile race that does not appear to overtly feature worship in its culture. The Fallen worship their godlike servitors, the Hive had devoted their entire religion to the worship of the darkness. We've been over this, but the Cabal don't do that sort of thing. Despite not worshipping anything necessarily, they do have hierarchy and ranks where particular individuals are revered. As of the Taken War, evidence has been gathered that the Cabal reveres a deity like Emperor. This was later revealed to be Emperor Calus, but we'll get into his story in a little bit. Before we get into the origins of the Cabal, we're going to talk about their biology, language, armor, rankings, stuff like that, so that when you hear their story, you'll have some more context. The Cabal Sacs are a bipedal, meaning that they walk on two legs, hulking species that appear to be carnivores, evidenced by their many sharp, irregular teeth. They have wrinkled, leathery skin, because they tan a lot, a tall skull, dark wide-set eyes with slit pupils, and a very high inverted V-shaped upper lip that exposes the Cabal's upper gums and fangs. So in other words, they're hot. They come from a warm and humid climate, causing them to be constantly hydrated within their suits. While a resilient species, the Cabal cannot actually survive in Mars's blistering environment without their climate-controlled suits. The Cabal are known to have long lifespans, with an estimation of about 1,000 years. While their average weight is a whopping 800 pounds, their average height is only 5 to 8 feet. I'm assuming the slender and psychic scions really bring down that average though. The Cabal species have males and females, which might be surprising to some, not that most people really spend their time thinking about that. And with that being said, you know, they more than likely reproduce the same way humans do. Sexually. And that's all I have to say about that. The Cabal has also advanced cloning and genetic manipulation technology as exemplified by the ceremonial bathers spawned by the Leviathan's cloning facilities. While they're hard to spot, references in the grimoire indicate that the Cabal have females serving in their ranks, but as you might have guessed, they are indistinguishable from the males in gameplay. Depictions of 2 known female Cabal suggest that they have tusks, which is pretty hot. So if you ever see a Cabal with a woolly mammoth looking tusk, you now know that it is probably a female. And as a bonus fun fact, at one point Drifter mentions that Cabal doesn't have any fat on them, that they are all just pure muscle, nothing but lean, mean, protein. Yeah. Despite those like Ghaul in the console seeming to speak English in Destiny 2, the Cabal does have their own language if you listen closely, which is described as grunting and moronic, lacking in subtlety. Nevertheless, the city has yet to fully translate it or its various dialects. Interestingly enough, the Cabal is confused by the term ghost, translating it to dead person. They do not appear to have a word for retreat, and conversely they have 6 words for advance, which I find to be pretty funny. I think it adds to their character well. The Cabal are constantly looking for ways to increase their power and have devoted a lot of time finding and adapting the technology of other races. However, they frequently do not fully develop the technologies that they use, leaving structural weaknesses to be exploited. Ghost also noted on Mars that their security systems are absurdly easy to exploit, claiming that they were less complex than DOS. The Cabal are known to frequently tamper with forces they hardly understand, whether it's the Traveler's Light, the Taken's radiation, or the darkness itself, which leads to just a lot of goofy looking death. This is one of the main problems I had with the Destiny 2 campaign, as they made Ghaul out to be this intelligent, scheming, conniving villain, when in reality the Cabal is just supposed to be stupid pieces of meat that just want to blow everything up to solve their problems. The Cabal is like the stereotypical jock football players in high school that crush beer cans with their heads. In school they get straight D's, but yet they're also giving the girl that you like the D. The Cabal we see in our solar system is but one arm of a vast interstellar empire. The nature of the upper echelons of the Cabal leadership, including the identity of the leader of the Cabal in the solar system, is unknown, except for the fact that the Cabal as a whole is, or was, ruled by Dominus Ghaul, who has final authority over military decisions. An influential military aristocracy known as the Praetoriate controlled the Empire's legions in the past, but holds somewhat less power under the reign of Ghaul, before he got wrecked by my bullets, that is. The order of Cabal military rankings from highest to lowest are Dominus, Primus, Valus, Val, Brachus, and Commander. You're probably asking yourself, what about Emperor Calus? Well, titles such as Emperor and Consul are used by the Empire's political leaders, a separate thing from the military, but they are higher up in leadership technically. Well, at least the Emperor is. Calus held the title of Emperor before his exile, but I'll get into the story of his exile later in the video. While the Fallen have houses, the Vex have collectives, and the Hive just have the Hive, the Cabal has different legions. The different legions of the Cabal military are as follows: the Blind Legion, the Broken Legion, the Dust Giants, the Ice Reapers, the Loyalists, the Red Legion, the Sand Eaters, the Siege Dancers, and the Skyburners. There's also apparently another legion known as the Bone Crushers, which is a freaking awesome name, but they've never appeared in the game. And with all that said and done, now it's time to get into the origins and backstory of the Cabal Empire, talking about the formation, Calus, and all that good stuff leading us up to the events we play through in Destinies 1 and 2. According to Cabal myth, the first emperor was a hero named Acrius, a name you might recognize as a Leviathan raid weapon, who, get this, allegedly took the sun. Pretty big accomplishment, if you ask me. I just go to school and make YouTube videos. In the earliest days of this new empire, the Cabal Emperor ruled alongside the military aristocracy known as the Praetoriate, who took all the wealth, causing the people to suffer. The Praetoriate took citizenship from the Cabal's legions and used them to protect and enrich their Praetoriate masters. This was something Calus was not a fan of, viewing the Praetoriate as corrupt and parasitic. One of the members of the Praetoriate was the Consul, which will be important in a little bit. Upon Calus' inauguration years later, he had the wasteland of an unknown planet cleared of any stone or plant in order to have a desert of pure white. The first act of his coronation was to send the Consul into this wasteland as a symbol for the revolution he would soon bring. Dang, dude. During his reign, Calus began to purge the corrupt Praetoriate, as he and his Imperial Guard marched into the temple, where the former Cabal Senate convened and assassinated them. He then granted citizenship to the various legions. During this time, Calus moved the capital so it could be closer to his people, throwing parades daily as he bought from the local marketplaces. Following his great purge, Calus spoke to his people, announcing that he had repossessed the wealth and plunder of the Praetorian elite, which I gotta admit is a really inspiring story. But all good things must come to an end. The Consul is in Destiny 2, Calus is exiled when we see him, so what happened? The game does a really bad job of explaining it unless you do like some random adventure on Nessus, so let's go over that. Calus claims to have overseen a reign of glory. His empire was an immense military power, but valued willpower, learning, gentility, and subtlety. The empire crafted technological marvels that allowed every need to be met and every life to be lived in comfort. As the Cabal Empire expanded, it encountered countless alien races, and rather than waging war against them, absorbed them into itself, indoctrinating their species, collecting their technology, learning their knowledge, and merging with their culture. On one occasion, word reached the Emperor that the Oxa machine, a device created by the Scions capable of clairvoyance, was being rebuilt after being destroyed on a moon called Brand. Calus's appointed general, Amun Arath, sent ships to bomb this moon and kill the Scion responsible. But Calus, like the nice guy he is, stopped the ships and instead chose to propose an alliance with the Scion called Atzat. He even went as far as rewarding Atzat, impressed by her ambition and genius, elevating her to his court as Imperial Dreamer. However, behind Calus's back, Ghaul was organizing a coup with the Consul and some of Calus's closest friends, including Uman Arath and Atzat, to overthrow Calus. Ghaul launched his attack in the dead of night, doing so successfully. With the Emperor being too popular to simply execute, Ghaul, his Red Legion, and the Consul instead arrested Calus and a number of his supporters in his own court, exiling him aboard the Leviathan and taking him far from the Empire along a pre-programmed course. After this, Ghaul swiftly assumed power. He wanted to bring in a new order, declaring that there would be no more emperors. Ghaul instead assumed the title of Dominus and imposed radical reforms on the Empire. Under his leadership, Cabal culture moved from pleasure for all to militarism and personal glory. Its subtlety was replaced by brute industrial force. Under the reign of Dominus Ghaul, the Cabal conquered rather than absorbed. The Cabal scouting legions arrived in our solar system at some point following the collapse. Encountering no meaningful opposition, they established a beachhead on Phobos, constructing massive facilities and firebases before invading Mars. Mars being where we first see them in-game. And with that being said, that's where the story ends. Or it definitely continues, but all of this takes place in events we play through. As I do with all these videos, if you want me to continue and talk about the events we play through as well, or maybe you just want to hear specifically more about what happens to Calus after he's exiled, let me know down in the comments. But that's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, let me know by leaving a like, it is super appreciated. As I said in my last video, the Timbo merch store and Patreon page are now up. If you want to check it out, you can follow the link I've left in the description. If you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next one.